Hi, everyone. This is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we're going to take a look at a couple of transits that are perfecting this week, arguably some of the bigger transits of the month. We have Mercury, who is going to be opposing Uranus this week in Taurus from the sign of Scorpio, and that's happening just as Mercury is slowing down to stop and turn retrograde, so it has a little bit more oomph behind it. And at the same time, Mercury is in Scorpio. The host of Scorpio, who is Mars, is also moving through a retrograde square with Pluto. It did it in August. It's coming back again. So this should be a pretty pivotal week. So let's go ahead and put the real-time clock up, take a look at it, and then I'll give you a sense of what to watch for. All right, so here is the real-time clock, and let's outline the transits that we're talking about here. So you can see right here is Mercury in Scorpio, and over here we have Uranus in Taurus. And that opposition is perfecting this week. If we advance this daily, you're going to see that the opposition perfects between Wednesday and Thursday. But you should be feeling it already because it is just 1 degree off. And at the same time that this is happening, what I also want you to pay close attention to is the fact that Mars at 22 Aries is making a square with Pluto at 22 Capricorn. And that square will perfect pretty much between Thursday and Friday. So you've got a Wednesday and into Thursday for Mercury opposite Uranus, with a Thursday into Friday for Mars square Pluto. So those are really the transits of the week. Those are the most dynamic transits of the week. It doesn't get a lot easier after that, because right after that, you're going to see the sun going into an opposition with Mars next week, along with a square to Pluto, and then it'll get into the enclosure between Mars and Saturn. So the next 2 weeks are pretty gnarly, to be honest with you. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's on the menu with these transits. Let's talk about Mercury opposite Uranus, with the underlying Mars square Pluto happening in the background, or pretty much simultaneously. So here's what you want to watch for. Remember that Mercury is the messenger and the god of communication, is intimately related to the changing makeup of our minds, as well as things like information and technology. You have Uranus, which is a planet of great rebellion, sudden, eccentric, disruptive, or erratic energy, as well as defiance, and sometimes even sudden sudden, unexpected, or surprising changes that are very, very quick. And even though we're astrologers and we're in the business of predicting things, Uranus is sort of unpredictably predictable, or predictably unpredictable, I should say. Then you have Mars, god of war, conflict, hostility, but also courage, action, and will, getting into it with Pluto, the lord of the underworld, Hades, the god of death, depth, power, intensity, darkness, and often regeneration. So it's quite a lineup, right? So here's what to watch for, especially because, remember, Mercury is going to be stationing and also turning retrograde, and that's something we'll be looking at probably later this week as well. So when Mercury opposes Uranus, there's oftentimes a feeling of revelation, like a sudden idea or an insight or a piece of information that comes to light. It comes to light very quickly or very suddenly, or there's a very sudden change. And that change is often going to go against your better sense of what's happening or what's rational, or it tends to go against your ingrained habits or behaviors or established ways of doing things, which can be great if you're a creative type of person, or it can be great for new insights, or even coming up with a new piece of technology or a new invention would be very much in line with the Mercury-Uranus opposition. However, Mercury-Uranus can also, especially because Mercury is in a deep, watery, Mars-like sign right now, Scorpio, that the kind of information or the kind of ideas or the kind of communication or messages that come to the surface erratically, suddenly, disruptively, may be violent or confrontational or aggressive or hostile. For example, a sudden accusation, a sudden attack, a sudden, sort of you go into the workplace, let's say, and you get accosted by someone suddenly. Or let's say that someone serves you papers that you're evicted or something like that, like a sudden twist of the plot that comes and is very disruptive, but also maybe brings with it some kind of revelation about what someone really thinks about you or what someone's been doing behind the scenes or behind the surface, below the surface. So revelation / accusation or sudden confrontations, maybe with the sense of someone who's been doing something underhanded. There can also be a sense of defiance and almost like I'm going to break the rules and I don't care what anyone thinks. There can be also the revelation of information that has been hidden or twisted or manipulated. For example, if you were an investigative journalist or a reporter, this would be the moment where you find that piece of evidence or that particular witness who's willing to, or some witness or source, I should say, who's willing to, share some information or something like that. So sudden attacks, sudden sabotage, sudden unexpected information or ideas, as well as revelation, insight, epiphany. But it's potentially a little bit more volatile and confrontational because of that underlying energy of Mars and Pluto that's also in the air this week. You could be a little bit careful about increased paranoia or anxiety or obsessing or fixating over something, how something's going to turn out or how something's going to go. It's like the parent that says, I'm not going to drive over there and see what my kid is doing. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, as you're like the car is creeping down the street. So you have to be careful about almost like, trying to control someone or something else that maybe isn't your business to control or to manage or to coach or something like that. Or people could do that to you. And if people are offering you unsolicited advice or criticism, or if someone is coming after you, and trying to ruin or wreck your reputation or your name or something like that, probably the best advice for the moment would be, because this is a Mars retrograde going through the Pluto square and the Mars will come back through direct contact, play the long game, be careful of what conflicts you allow in right now. It could be very easy, in other words, to get into, a defensive or reactive position if someone suddenly tries to come at you psychically, emotionally, in some unexpected way. And probably your immediate reaction wouldn't be the best. There is a hexagram in the I Ching that I really love, which is called conflict. It's number 6. And I don't love the hexagram. I shouldn't say I love it, but I love its teaching. The hexagram is very difficult, and it talks about how to deal with conflict. And one of the things that, I think it's the first line, if I'm not mistaken, but one of the lines of the hexagram speaks to the fact that you should, basically kind of like, when someone comes at you with something very sudden, or is attacking you or accusing you of something, even if you feel like a victim in the situation, lashing out with some kind of self-righteousness or indignation will oftentimes, and then trying to justify yourself or fight really tooth and nail, will often entangle you more in the situation. And sometimes, even if you have to confront or deal with something that's difficult, it can help if you just stop and take a moment to kind of account for, how did I get in this situation? Is there anything that I could have done differently that, maybe I should look at? And sometimes just taking that moment to humble ourselves when we get into a conflict, even if it feels like something's coming at us suddenly and it's kind of unfair, it helps, because then our response is going to be the dignified response. Our response also can be very humble, and we have to remember that how we, especially if someone is in attacking or insulting us in any way that's very public, like at your workplace, or I don't know, in front of your whole family or something like that. if that is the case, the way that you respond to criticism, the way that any of us respond to criticism or some kind of sudden unexpected assault on our character, our integrity, or our safety, or our livelihood, or whatever the case might be, that when we respond to that patiently and with a degree of humility, and other people around us see us respond in that way, we also generally we will have more people backing us and helping us and wanting to support us should an aggressor continue in a way that is unjust or unfair or unkind. Whereas if people see us escalate the situation, people tend to step back in a way. So and a piece of advice for this week generally would be that if you find, especially, don't be the aggressor if you can help it. You know what I mean? Like, don't be on the dishing out of this stuff, because it's not a good time to do it. But if you're on the receiving end of anything like this, then my advice would be to think about the proper conduct, because people are probably watching you around you in your world. And if you handle it with integrity and humility, you'll find that you have support around you. Whereas if you escalate and handle with self-righteousness and indignation, oftentimes you'll be in a mano-a-mano situation, and it may not favor you because the energies might be a little bit more hostile and reactive, and you know, it's harder to win when someone is stabbing you in the back, basically. You know what I mean? It's so better in a sense to like lick your wounds and find the humble response to anything like that this week. It's a big one, and I wanted to spend more time on it because with Mars square Pluto and Mercury opposite Uranus, it is that moment where someone could just snap or go off on you, or, you know, try to put you in your place, or humiliate or embarrass you, or try to overpower you, or dominate you in some way. So you just have to be, you know, aware of that. As well as, and you know, not that I wanted to increase your paranoia or anxiety, which is also a potential this week. So I don't want you to also get increased paranoia or anxiety because of what I'm saying here, right? So it's not that someone will do that to you. It's just that's one of the stronger possibilities that you could see, or you could see in your environment, or happening to someone around you. But also the potential to be overly paranoid and anxious. Sudden changes or meltdowns in communications, a kind of explosive, cathartic, confrontational energy, toned by themes of depth, power, and darkness, questions about the appropriate use of power or abuse of power. Those are really important themes this week. An enemy potentially from the past coming back somehow, an enemy, or let's say a conflict or a difficult theme or energy of some kind that's making a reappearance in your life. That would be because Mars is retrograde, so we're kind of going backward with the planet symbolically, and hitting Pluto, that agent of you know, sometimes real catharsis. So also watch for a sudden shift in the status of something, and then I think probably the most exciting one is the sort of electric sudden insights, revelations, inspiration that may cause you to take sudden, pivotal, decisive action, which could create kind of like a breakthrough. So I think this energy this week is, it tends to be more conducive to drama. So I'm going to be very careful to try to steer away from it myself, should it arise in, you know, my own life. But it is also, if there's something that we may need to confront or need to deal with, then, you know, it's a week where we'll be challenged to find the appropriate conduct to deal with erratic or unexpected events, especially those that kind of confront us more head on and are kind of feel really charged and deep, maybe filled with history too. At any rate, it'll be interesting to see all of this play out in the news. Some of you tuned in last week to my, I did some horary charts on the election, on President Trump's health with COVID. I'm going to loosely kind of track how that goes over the week. It looks like he's maybe, I saw the news this morning, it looked like he might be going back to the White House. But with all of these energies taking place over the next 2 weeks, I think it's going to be really interesting to track out how all of this is affecting the election or his own health, or and to track those horaries and see see how the symbolism ends up speaking to what happened. That's a really important follow-up that I'll do at some point for those of you who are interested in continuing to track that. So that's what I've got for now. I've got a few more good videos coming up this week. Don't forget that my new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, begins in November, on November 14th. It's a year-long program in ancient astrology, studying astrology from the roots up. And it's a good way of preparing yourself to read charts for other people. There's optional certification if you want to. We have 30 classes on the year, about 3 hours each. They're in webinars. You can participate live in the webinar, or you can tune in remotely and pick up the recordings. Everything is housed in an online folder for you. There's extra homework, bonus material, quizzes, an optional certification test at the end. We have live clients come into the classroom. You get to see me work with them, and we break down the sessions together after they leave. We have 12 guest speakers in addition, and we also have breakout tutoring sessions. It's a really cool program for those of you who are looking to go deeper. We have need-based tuition for people who need it. Please take advantage of that. We don't like to see anyone priced out of studying astrology. So we always have a need-based option open. If you're in need, you'll see how you can qualify. You can qualify also if you're struggling because of COVID-19 right now. There's an early bird rate. You can save $500 off, and there's a payment plan if you need it. So check that out at nightlightastrology.com. Email me if you have any questions, info@nightlightastrology.com, and we will see you guys soon. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.